No, Jason Anderson, you cannot win. I'm sorry, bud. You don't get to go to the Kings game. I know that's going to be heartbreaking for you after the road trip you just went on. What up, Jason?
Hey, I do get to go to the Kings game. I have to go to the Kings game, but I'm glad you can share those tickets with somebody else so they can join us there.
Jason, my friend, look. You, me, Kayla, we're all obligated to watch this team via our job, and we're all very fortunate to do what we do. But my friend, at least I was able to sit on a couch at home, and as soon as that game was over, just go and detox with literally anything else. You are there watching both the New Orleans game and that Utah game. What do you possibly take away, both as a journalist and as a spectator, from what we witnessed from the Sacramento Kings on those two games?
Well, I had to go take 3 showers. No, it was tough, man. It was hard to watch. It was, that Pelicans game at times. It was just a comedy of errors. And you're looking down at the floor, like, what is going on here? The ball is being thrown and kicked all over the place. They had multiple shot clock violations because they had air balls. The ball's not hitting the rim, and so it just was it was kind of unbelievable to watch, especially after they had strung together, a number of games where they had been pretty competitive, and even with sort of this new emphasis on the younger guys and getting their minutes out there while the vets sit. They were competitive. It looked like it was good basketball at times. And then, these last 2 games have just been a total regression. Probably for a number of reasons, but it just looked really bad, really sloppy. And I think this is a team that could definitely use a week off to recharge and refresh a little bit.
Jason Anderson, kind enough to join us here of the Sacramento Bee.
Kayla.
Hey, I didn't know we were related, but I guess, maybe 4th, 5th cousins, Jason. You never know.
Maybe we'll have to do to get the genealogy out or whatever.
For sure. But great to join you and talk with you. I love your work. And I'm
Thank
curious,
you too.
Jason, this has been so crazy on the road this year in particular. And lately on the road with just blowout losses. Can you put your finger on anything of maybe why the road games just haven't been competitive or why they just can't find a win on the road?
No, I mean, they really haven't found many wins anywhere, just to be frank. So I don't know. For teams like this, sometimes the road is a better place to be because you get away from, kind of the microscope, all the time. And they just, I just think this is just not a good team, not a well-constructed team, not very cohesive. And, it's a little stunning given, that there are 4 former All-Stars and however many future Hall of Famers you want to say or could be there. But it just is not, the pieces don't fit, and they haven't fit from the beginning. I think with Keegan's injury at the start of the year, their season was pretty much over before it started. I don't think things would have gone this bad if he had been healthy at the beginning of the year, because I think he was kind of the guy that connected the glut of guards to the bigs. They need 2 or 3 guys like Keegan. And when you have to go out there and try to do it for a month without anybody like Keegan, they were just doomed, I think, from the start, unfortunately. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for your road question other than to say that they're just not very good anywhere, unfortunately.
It's funny, Jason, you remember the Beam teams, they were better on the road than they were at home during those seasons, which was so strange. So it doesn't always make sense. But it's telling that the biggest takeaway from the New Orleans game was DeMar DeRozan throwing a water bottle. And you got the opportunity to speak with DeRozan afterwards. We referenced that article that you had released on the on SacB.com and with the Sacramento Bee about that incident. But that conversation with DeMar, the expression was about the frustration of just not playing the right way. Did you try to read between the lines at all with those comments, or do you take it at face value of he was frustrated in the moment of just how that game was going? Or do you think it's a larger... what the hell am I doing here at this point in my career in another what seems like wasted season?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him about that too. And, so I think just in that moment, you could just sense it building. Like, I mean, I could see it. I pulled the phone out, and if I'd hit record 1 second earlier, I would have got the water bottle like being thrown, because you could just feel something building.
Yeah.
And it was, you could see it in him. You could see it in Russ, who got teed up a little bit earlier in that game. And so you could just sense the frustration. They were playing so bad. I mean, the ball literally, he had to have been embarrassed. I mean, just at the way the quality of play was just not NBA caliber basketball there for a while. It was literally the balls being just kicked everywhere. And so you could sense it building. On the larger point, I've talked to him about that as well before the trade deadline. I basically asked him, are you ready to get out of here? I mean, you're at a stage in your career where, you've only got so much time left. And, would you prefer to be in a winning environment somewhere? And his answer, and that story's out there too. So people can still find it, but it was a very, it was an honest answer, but also very professional. And, it's why so many people admire and respect DeMar DeRozan so much for who he is and how he handles his business, because he said, look, yeah, it's no secret that at this stage in my career where I'm at, like he wants to be able to win and compete. And he said, but that's whether it's here or anywhere. It could be here. Not here. I'm in Salt Lake City still waiting on a plane, but it could be there in Sacramento. It could be anywhere. But he just wants an opportunity to compete and to make these last years of his career meaningful. And so, he was pretty honest about that and the way he answered the question, I thought. I know there's been a lot of talk about, him and a buyout perhaps. I saw him last night as he was on his way out of the arena and grabbed him just for a second and asked him that question. And he said he hadn't even thought about it really yet at this point. And I followed up with, well, does that mean you're ruling it out? And he just said, no, I just haven't considered it. And so it's the buyout is not something at this point he's thought about going to the Kings and asking for. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means as of last night when I talked to him, it wasn't something that he had processed yet or given thought to. So, so we'll see. It's unfortunate. I don't think anybody wants to rush DeMar DeRozan out of town. I would take him on my team any day, any year. The dude is a consummate pro and a certified like bucket getter. But almost for his sake, you'd like to see him have an opportunity to do something that matters. And not that the way he can mentor these young guys and those things don't matter here. He takes that seriously. The Kings value and appreciate that. But in terms of, being able to end his career in a situation where he has a chance to win, to compete, I on a personal level would love to see that for him, whether it's this year or next year or whatever it ends up being. So yeah, it's got I think all those things play in to the frustration that he's been feeling and not just him, but others as well.
Jason Anderson joining the show. You can check out his great work at the Sacramento Bee. Jason, I think maybe one positive that's come out of the past week and a half or so in terms of the youth. Again, we can say the names we've said all season, but Devin Carter, he's gotten some time to get out there, showcase himself a little bit. Do you believe they're really giving him a look, Jason, or is this just kind of to do just that, see if he can grow and they can maybe get some, value out of him?
Yeah, I mean, they're giving him it could be both. And really that's part of the NBA business side of things, right? Like, he's getting a look. Like he told me last night, this is the first stretch in my career that where he's played, 20 minutes plus in a string of games. And I asked him about the game slowing down. You hear that a lot for players as they kind of get acclimated to the NBA. For him, he's at the end of year 2. And he said, yeah, I'm seeing that. Like it mostly on the reads. He's still not happy with how he's shooting the ball. But he does see how the game is beginning to slow down and he's playing a little more under control and composed. And so, yeah, the Kings are going to want to see that. They're going to want to see if perhaps he could be a part of the future going forward. They also are going to want to see, and establish some value in case, the trade route is something that comes up again with him, where he's, been discussed in the past. So we will see. I know he's going to, well, I won't say where he's going because I don't know if he would want me to share that, but he's getting away for the All-Star break, and he's going to go see his dad and work on a shot. He said a lot because it feels like he's gotten away from like his mechanics and his shot, and he wants to kind of rediscover that. He's got, he does have a unique, very high arcing, just moonball kind of shot, and he's always had that. We've seen a little bit of adjustment with his mechanics this season, and I don't know that he's very comfortable with that. And so anyway, he says he's going to go spend the time off working on a shot, trying to get that back. So maybe after the break, we'll see, assuming that he continues to get extended playing time with some of these other young guys, maybe we'll see some difference in the way he's shooting the basketball as well.
Jason, we all will have to endure the remainder of this season, and nothing on our end that we can necessarily do about it, but the Sacramento Kings can at least control whether or not the rest of the season is proactive or it means something, or they can get something out of it, use the time going forward, which I know Doug Christie is trying to do with these young guys. We saw the Cavaliers, the game against Cleveland and Sacramento, where it's like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what you can see, an energetic, high, fast-paced, fun, young group that's highly competitive. Yes, they lost the game. They're supposed to lose the game, but it was highly competitive, fun. This is growth. This is progress. This is what we see the future could be. And then you follow it up with those two performances in New Orleans and then last night. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like black and white, whatever you want to call it. Usually the answer is somewhere in the middle. But what do you think is more accurate of this young group and what they can be going forward? The disasters of the last two games and blowouts, or the competitiveness of that homestand?
Oh, boy. I don't know that I would. Everybody wants to see competitive basketball. That's a nice bone to throw the fans. It's good for the players. It's good for the organization to get that, to be able to read that. I don't know that I would look at that collection of rookies and second-year guys and G League guys pressing the Cavs, who are maybe the best team in the Eastern Conference, and saying, "Hey, these guys could be that good." Like they're not that. They're just, nothing against them, but the rookie sophomore Sacramento Kings are not ready to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
For a night, they, and let's remember this was James Harden's debut for them, so they're working in a pretty big piece, and that can be an adjustment for a team when you're adding a piece like that. It can affect the way things work in all kinds of ways, and it's not always great. Like on day one, that's an adjustment for everybody wearing that uniform. So, I think that was probably a part of why the Kings were able to stay so close, and on any other night of the year, I don't know if they play the Cavs quite that tough, but then again, we have seen them with whatever iteration of the roster or who's available or who's not. We've seen them play good games and play good teams tough. They just haven't been able to sustain it. So, it's tough to say. I don't want to discredit what the young guys have done and the competitive spirit that they have brought, because that has been impressive and refreshing for a lot of people. But I think you're making a little bit of a leap if you were to say that, hey, this young core could be that good. I don't think we know that at this point.
Sure.
Jason, obviously you were in Salt Lake City last night, and AJ DeBanson, I know you got a shot of him and everything was there courtside. I was curious. I also saw some shots with, Russ after the game. I was curious if you had heard anything about, like, is this something he does do quite often, like get up to Utah to watch these games, or was there anything connected to, hey, want to check out the Kings? Just curious if you dove into that at all.
Yeah, no, I heard, I heard that AJ does get to Jazz games quite a bit. I don't know how often, whether he's, but I did hear he's there quite a bit. So it may just have been that. But then he did meet with Russ. I saw that much. I didn't know that last night. And I don't know if it was before or after the game. I just saw pictures pop up on, social media today. And so I don't know. One thing is Russ has his brand, and will sign young guys to his brand. And why am I, Matt? Maybe you could help me out. I'm blanking on somebody from last summer. One of the young guys he had added to his line.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Hold, I'll think about it. Keep going.
Yeah. So and so for when I saw the pictures pop up, it kind of made me wonder if Russ was recruiting a little bit for his line or his brand and the things he's doing there. So I don't know the answer to that. I wish I had an answer for you guys, but I don't. But yeah, clearly had spent a little bit of time with Russ, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the reason why.
Jason, one of the things we're also looking for the remainder of this season is something like compelling to watch, something to keep our eye on. And I have circled wanting to see what DeAndre Hunter and Keegan Murray look like together. As well as anybody, man, if the Kings had a DeAndre Hunter type player, that's something that they were looking for during those Beam team years, right? A little more length on the perimeter, some defensive opportunity, someone who can space the floor. And I'm curious, not that this is an excuse for Keegan, but I'm curious if that allows Keegan to open up anything more on the offensive end, or simply how much it takes off of his plate defensively, just to have another guy, another body with length and athleticism on the perimeter with him. Are you intrigued? Are you intrigued by that pairing? And I guess, what did you make of the Kings' somewhat quiet deadline again?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by that. I think that would be, if you're going to circle one thing, as you just said, I think that's as intriguing as anything right there. Because honestly, this, you talk about the Beam team, they may not have broken it up if they had been able to go get a guy like that, or then there were X number of them out there, and they tried to make deals. But if you had been able to go get a guy like that at any stage along the way, you don't have, Fox doesn't start to get anxious. You don't have Rich Paul like barking up your tree, like, what are we doing here? What's are you guys going to remain competitive? Because Fox at that point had become a brand in and of himself. And his agent, is of course going to want the best for his guy and want him to be in a spot where they had a chance to win. So if it ever at any point along the line they've been able to pull the trigger for somebody, Siakam, OG Anunoby, on and on, there are 5-6 guys you could name that would have fit the bill. I just think the trajectory and the course might have been completely different. Like Mike might not have lost his job. Fox wouldn't have wanted out. You probably have all of that still together. And to your question about, Keegan and DeAndre playing together, yes, I absolutely think that may unlock Keegan in ways that we haven't been able to see, because he's been asked to do so much defensively, where he's really the only guy that can guard the way he does. I mean, Keon had it to an extent, mostly off ball. I think his on-ball defense, some of the stuff got a little bit overstated with him. People got a little carried away with how good he was defensively. Definitely had elite tools, off ball, really good, steals, deflections, those kinds of things. But those things you're gambling a lot and then getting beat a lot of times when you're doing that. So for basic, sound, fundamental, switchable, versatile defense, Keegan's been the one guy that they've had who can do that. And if in fact DeAndre can do that, because we've seen numbers and metrics that show that maybe he's not as good defensively as maybe he has been in the past, I don't know. We'll see. But the two of them together, I know I've talked to DeAndre about it. And he says for him, yeah, it's nice when you look over and see another guy who can do what you do, and you can switch off. You can kind of take turns here and there. And, I think that might open things up for Keegan, kind of to rediscover what's still in him offensively, I believe. Like we saw him break the rookie record for 3-point goals as his first year in the league. And then, his 3-point shooting has sort of, fallen off each year as they've asked him to do different things and more things, especially at the defensive end. So you get him a little help, and maybe his legs are a little fresher. Maybe he doesn't have to guard every possession that way. He can, they can, you do your turn, my turn kind of thing on defense with certain players, certain assignments. And yeah, maybe that does help him get back to who he was offensively and who I still think he can be. Because really, he still, to me, has potential to be a really high-level two-way guy, like one of the best two-way guys in the league. If he continues to defend the way he does, and can get his offensive game back, because we've seen him become a three-level scorer. Free throws, if he's getting to the line, he's knocking those down. If he gets that three-point shooting back up to like 39-40% plus, then he becomes really an elite, like, two-way guy, and super valuable to any team in the league at this point. So, definitely looking forward to seeing that, if we get to see that over the last, 20, however many games. And then, I don't know, you asked about the deadline being quiet. They made the one move and that we just talked about. And right now, honestly, that feels like, I know a lot of people were disappointed they didn't do more. But this team's doing a fine job of losing as is. And you don't want to mess around and win too many games right now. And you're already here. You might as well maximize, what that draft lottery position is going to look like and try to do that. And also from Scott's point of view as the GM, Scott Perry, why rush? And if you don't think you're getting the value back and, talks for, say, DeMar or Malik or Levine or Sabonis, then you don't have to do it. You can wait. And, in theory, the value is probably goes up later on as they have less years and money on their contracts. It I think will create more options and bring more teams to the table who might be willing to negotiate with you. So I get the kind of the angst and everybody wanting to do things quickly and turn this roster over immediately. But honestly, Scott talks about patience and prudence. And honestly, the patient and the prudent thing might have been to just sort of hold on to what you got and get back to the table at a later date and see if you can make a better deal for yourself.
One more from me. Jason Anderson of the Sac Bee joined us. We're talking Kings. Jason, you're on the road with Doug Christie. Clearly, you talked to him here, too, for home games. He's such a competitive guy. We all know, what he means to Sacramento. How impossible, I guess, of a situation is he in this season? And how hard is it for then, everyone to really dissect what he's doing as a coach?
Yeah, it's really tough. And I feel for Doug on a lot of levels, personally and professionally, because he is in a tough spot. You hear people say, I think the fair way to put it is I don't know how good of a coach he is or can be because of the way this roster is built. I don't think you can. I think it makes it really hard to evaluate him and to judge him in terms of just how good of a coach he can be. And unfortunately, he's probably only going to get one shot at this thing. And if they don't have the patience, if the patience doesn't extend to Doug, he may never really have a real shot. Okay. Because he's got hands tied behind his back. He's got feet tied here and there. He's got there's only so much that can be done with this group. And that's the unfortunate part, because then you get to the personal side where nobody loves that organization, the city of Sacramento, the fan base, just the whole thing. Nobody loves all of that like Doug does. I mean, he wants it so bad for the city, for the team, for the franchise. They could not find anyone anywhere who wants to win and bring winning basketball to Sacramento and a championship to Sacramento more than Doug does. It would be great to see him really get a chance down the road. It would be unfortunate for him to, his tenure to be cut short before he ever really has an opportunity. to show that. It is, unfortunately, the business is the way it is. So, we really don't know. Like, I think if you're reading cards or whatever, trying to look into a crystal ball, like, I would say more likely than not, he doesn't really get that chance. Like, at some point, they probably make a change before, a real dramatic, like, roster overhaul has occurred. And, I'd love to see him get that shot. I don't know if he will. And that's tough, because if you just know how Doug is and how he's wired and what he's all about, like, it is all he wants. And he will run through walls to be the coach, to get better as a coach, to do all those things that he needs to do, to deserve the job and to serve the organization and the city in that way. I just at this point, I don't know, if long term he's really going to have that opportunity. So I don't know. Well, I'm curious what you guys think. Like, the same question to you, Kayla and Matt. Like, what are your thoughts?
That's the exact same. Honestly, Jason, we talked about this yesterday, and we really had the almost exact same answer as you. It's just like, it's so hard to really know what he is, and it's not his fault, but this is the business, and you're right. Like, you have to make decisions, more so quicker than not, if you're trying to change your team around. So I think I'm with you on that too, Jason.
I would say the one thing that's really working in his favor too is it seems like the young guys really, really do like him and respond to him. And if that's the direction that you're transitioning into, where the young guys are more important and next year is going to be more of a full-on developmental year instead of a bit of half and half, maybe that works in his favor to keep him around long-term as the right coach to start the rebuild with. We'll see when it gets to playoff and winning time, but maybe to start the rebuild with, Doug might be able to check that box for Scott Perry. So I think that's pretty much where we're at this point.
And I would add this, and if there are guys who are not listening and not bought in to what, to who he is and what he's about and what he wants, those are the guys that probably got to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so why make him pay for that? Because that's, you can't. That's not his fault either. That those guys are here. He didn't do that. And then maybe you make those roster changes and you start to see how things start to improve. I'd love to see that. Maybe a few months from now or a year or so from now, maybe we will.
You and me both, Jason. Well, hey, safe flight back home, and beat writers need the All-Star break sometimes just as much as the teams do. So get some rest, and we'll see you back at the Golden One Center for Kings and Magic on Thursday.
Thanks, buddy. Nice talking to you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Great
Jason.
to talk to you. The great Jason Anderson from the Sacramento Bee. Nice enough to take the time. We will take the break.